house was eerily quiet after the funeral. I could still feel the weight of my grandmother's absence pressing down on my chest. The memories of her laughter, the scent of her lavender perfume, and the warmth of her hugs lingered in the air like a ghost. I wandered aimlessly through the living room, my fingers grazing the surfaces of familiar furniture, each one a capsule of memories that felt both comforting and suffocating. "Sarah, you need to go through her things," my mother had said, her voice choked with grief. But the thought of sorting through my grandmother's belongings felt like an insurmountable task. I had always been drawn to the attic, a place filled with the remnants of our family's history, and now it seemed like the only place to escape the sorrow that enveloped me. With a deep breath, I made my way up the creaky stairs that led to the attic. The door squeaked as I pushed it open, and a cloud of dust swirled around me, catching the dim light that filtered through the small, grimy window. The air was heavy with the scent of aged wood and forgotten memories. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, their labels faded and barely legible. Felt like stepping into a time capsule. "Wow," I whispered to myself, taking a step inside. "What secrets are you hiding up here?" I smiled at the thought of uncovering treasures from my grandmother's past, but a shiver ran down my spine as I crossed the threshold, as if the attic itself was alive, watching me. I began to sift through the boxes, each one filled with relics of a bygone era. Old photographs, yellowed with time, stared back at me, capturing faces I barely recognized. A wedding dress, delicately folded, lay in one corner, and I imagined my grandmother twirling in it, radiating happiness. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and music, but as I dug deeper, the atmosphere shifted. An unsettling feeling crept into my bones, and I paused, glancing around the cramped space. "Get a grip, Sarah," I muttered to myself. "It's just an attic." I turned my attention back to the boxes, pushing aside old toys and faded letters, when something caught my eye, a glimmer of porcelain. There, sitting majestically on a high shelf, was a doll. At first, I thought it was just another forgotten toy, but as I approached, I realized it was unlike any doll I had ever seen. Its porcelain skin was unnaturally smooth, and its eyes, a deep, haunting blue, seemed to follow my every movement. I felt an inexplicable pull towards it. "Hey there," I said softly, reaching out to touch the doll. The moment my fingers brushed against its cold porcelain face, a chill coursed through me, sending shivers down my spine. I quickly withdrew my hand, feeling a strange mixture of fascination and fear. "What's your story?" I murmured, half expecting an answer. I couldn't shake the feeling that the doll was watching me, its eyes glistening with a life of their own. I glanced around the attic, half expecting to see a hidden camera or someone playing a trick on me. But I was alone, just me and the doll, ensconced in the shadows of the attic. "Okay, let's get you down from there," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath as I reached for the doll. It was heavier than I anticipated, and as I lifted it, I felt an odd sensation, as if the air around me thickened. I cradled it in my arms, an odd combination of comfort and dread swirling within me. "You're coming with me?" I declared, trying to convince myself I wasn't afraid. Carrying the doll downstairs felt like a journey through a fog. Every step I took echoed like a heartbeat, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting in the air. I set the doll on my bed, its eyes glimmering in the dim light of my room. "What a strange little thing," I said out loud, trying to dispel the tension that had settled over me. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture of the doll, intending to send it to Jake, my childhood friend. "He'll think this is hilarious," I thought, but deep down, I was still unsettled. As night fell, I lay in bed, the doll perched ominously on my nightstand. The room was dark, the only light coming from the street lamp outside, casting eerie shadows across the walls. I tried to distract myself with my phone, scrolling through social media, but my mind kept drifting back to the doll. Suddenly, I heard it, a faint whisper, like a breeze brushing against my ear. I sat up, my heart racing. "Hello," I called out, but there was only silence. The shadows danced on the walls, and I felt a cold draft seep through the room, wrapping around me like an icy hand. "Get a grip, Sarah," I whispered to myself again. "It's just the wind." But as I lay back down, I couldn't shake the sensation that I wasn't alone. A shiver ran down my spine, and I pulled the covers tighter around me. Then I heard it again. "Sarah?" The whisper was soft but insistent, and it sent a wave of terror coursing through me. I bolted upright, my eyes darting around the room, landing on the doll. It was still there, motionless, but something about its presence felt different, more alive, almost sentient. "Okay, this is ridiculous," I said, forcing a laugh to break the tension. "It's just a doll." Yet, deep down, I knew something was wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers were coming from it, urging me to listen, to understand. "Why are you calling my name?" I challenged, my voice trembling. The room was eerily quiet, and I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I stared at the doll, half expecting it to respond, but it remained still, its blue eyes glimmering in the dark. After what felt like hours, I finally managed to drift into a restless sleep, the whispers fading into a distant echo. But even in my dreams, I could feel the weight of the doll's gaze. It was as if it was reaching into my soul, pulling at the threads of forgotten memories and buried secrets. When morning light finally streamed through my window, I awoke with a start. The doll was still there, but the sense of unease lingered. I rubbed my eyes and glanced at it, half expecting it to have moved during the night. "You're just a doll," I said defiantly, but the words felt hollow. As I got up to make breakfast, I glanced back at the doll one last time. Its expression was unchanged, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching me, waiting for something. I shook my head, trying to dispel the thoughts swirling in my mind. "It's just an old toy," I reassured myself, but deep down, I felt a darkness lurking, waiting for the right moment to emerge. "Today is a new day," I told myself as I headed downstairs, but the shadows of the attic and the whispers of the doll lingered in the back of my mind, beckoning me to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within the walls of my family's past. I found myself standing in the dimly lit attic, surrounded by a heavy silence that seemed to press down on me like a weight. The smell of dust and old wood filled my nostrils as I surveyed the clutter of forgotten memories. Boxes stacked haphazardly, a moth-eaten armchair in the corner, and a few forgotten toys scattered about. I had just returned from my grandmother's funeral, where the air had been thick with grief, and now, in this shadowy space, I felt a strange mix of sadness and curiosity. I had always been close to my grandmother, and the thought of her being gone was still too fresh to digest. As I stepped further into the darkness, I felt an inexplicable pull towards the far wall. There, perched on a high shelf, was a doll. It looked oddly out of place among the other items, almost regal in its stillness. Its porcelain face was painted with intricate detail, but what struck me most were its eyes, dark and penetrating, as if they were watching me. A shiver ran down my spine, but I couldn't resist the urge to reach out. "Why are you up here all alone?" I whispered, half expecting an answer. I climbed onto an old stepladder, feeling the creak of the wood beneath my weight as I reached for the doll. The moment my fingers brushed its cool surface, a wave of cold washed over me. It was as though I had touched something ancient, something that held secrets too dark to comprehend. I quickly pulled my hand back, but the doll's gaze felt unyielding, still following my every move. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to take it with me. I wrapped it carefully in an old blanket I found nearby and made my way back to my room. As I settled the doll on my bedside table, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had brought something sinister into my home. That night, as I lay in bed, sleep eluded me. The silence of the house felt oppressive, and I could have sworn I heard whispers, soft and unintelligible, like a distant conversation. "Is someone there?" I called out, but the only response was the rustling of leaves outside my window. I turned to face the doll, its expression unchanged but somehow more menacing in the darkness. "You're just a doll," I reassured myself, but deep down, I felt a gnawing unease. The whispers grew louder over the next few nights, weaving into my dreams until I could almost make out words. One night, The voice broke through the fog of sleep, clear as a bell. Sarah. My eyes flew open, heart racing. I sat up in bed, the moonlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice trembling. "Sarah." The voice repeated, tired yet urgent. "You must know the truth." I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I strained to listen. "What truth? Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Your family, the secrets, the doll," it murmured. "You must uncover it." I sat in the dark, trembling. My mind raced back to the stories my grandmother used to tell me about our family, about how we had a history steeped in mystery and sometimes darkness. I remembered whispers of a pact, a deal made generations ago, but the details had always been vague, shrouded in the same heavy silence that now filled my room. The next morning, fueled by a mix of fear and determination, I decided to find answers. I rummaged through my grandmother's belongings, hoping to uncover something that would shed light on the words I had heard. After hours of searching, I stumbled upon an old trunk buried beneath layers of fabric and dust. My heart raced as I pried it open, revealing a collection of aged papers and a worn leather-bound diary. This must be it, I thought, clutching the diary to my chest. I opened it carefully, the pages crackling under my fingertips. The handwriting was elegant but shaky, and as I began to read, my heart sank. There were entries detailing my grandmother's life, her struggles, and most alarmingly, a series of notes about the doll. "Brought it home from the fair. It feels different. Alive." One entry read. Another spoke of a pact. "The spirit is restless. It demands a price." I felt a chill creep down my spine as I read. The entries became more frantic, filled with warnings and rituals meant to protect our family. "The doll is a vessel," one entry stated ominously. "It holds the spirit of our ancestor, who was wronged. We must confront it before it takes another." Confusion and dread washed over me. What did this mean? I had to know more, to understand the connection between the doll and my family's past. I needed help, someone who could help me decipher the rest of this diary. I thought of Jake, my childhood friend who had always been fascinated by the supernatural. "Jake!" I called out later that day, my voice echoing through the phone. "You won't believe what I found." "What's up, Sarah?" he replied, his curiosity piqued. "I found my grandmother's diary, and it's about this doll I brought home. There are secrets, Jake. Dark secrets." "Secrets? Like what?" I hesitated, gathering my thoughts. "It talks about a spirit, a pact, and there's something about a curse. I need your help to figure it out." "Okay, I'm in. Just tell me when and where," he said, his voice steady as always. That evening, we met in my room, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. I laid the diary open on the table, its pages fluttering slightly in the breeze from the window. Jake leaned in, his brow furrowing as he read the entries. "Wow, this is intense, Sarah. Your grandma was really into this stuff," he remarked, glancing at me with concern. "Are you sure you want to dig deeper?" "I have to know," I insisted, feeling a sense of urgency rise within me. "It's about my family. I can't just ignore it." As we pored over the diary, we found entries detailing rituals meant to appease the spirit. "There's this passage here," Jake pointed out, his finger tracing the faded ink. "It says you need to confront the spirit directly, reveal the truth of what happened." "Confront the spirit?" I echoed, my heart racing. "What does that even mean?" "It means whatever happened in the past is still affecting you. You need to face it, Sarah," he replied, his tone serious. I felt a mix of fear and determination surge through me. I can't keep running away from this. I need to face whatever this is. "Just be careful," Jake warned, his brow creased with concern. "You don't know what you're dealing with." I nodded, knowing he was right. Yet, the thought of uncovering my family's past was a weight I couldn't shake. The whispers, the doll, the secrets, they all demanded to be unveiled. It was time to confront the truth, no matter the cost. The night felt heavier than usual, the kind of weight that pressed down on my chest and made it hard to breathe. I had done the unthinkable. I had taken the bone doll from the attic, a relic of my grandmother's past. I had done it out of curiosity, driven by a strange compulsion to uncover the secrets that had been buried with her. The moment I touched the doll, a chill raced through me, as if I had disturbed something that was meant to remain undisturbed. Alone in my room, I placed the doll on my desk, unable to shake off the feeling that it was more than just a toy. Its glassy eyes seemed to glimmer in the dim light, following my every movement. I could almost hear the whispers, soft and insistent, weaving through the silence of my thoughts. They were faint at first, like the rustling of leaves on a windy day, but they grew louder, more urgent, as the hours passed. "Sarah." The voice was a mere whisper, but it sent a shiver down my spine. I sat up straight, heart racing, looking around the room as though someone might be hiding in the shadows. "Sarah." It called again, this time more distinct, a melodic echo that resonated deep within me. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but the growing dread in my gut told me otherwise. The following night, the whispers returned, more rhythmic, as if they were trying to form words, to communicate something vital. I pressed my hands against my ears, trying to drown them out, but it was futile. "What do you want?" I finally shouted into the darkness, my voice trembling. "Find the truth," came the reply, a soft, haunting sound that seemed to wrap around me like a cold breeze. My heart raced at the implications of those words. What truth? What had my grandmother hidden from me? In the days that followed, I found myself drawn to the attic again, a moth to a flame. I rummaged through the boxes, each item coated in dust and memories, until I stumbled upon a leather-bound diary. Its cover was cracked and faded, and the pages inside were yellowed with age. I recognized it immediately as my grandmother's handwriting, elegant but frayed at the edges, just like the diary itself. I opened it cautiously, my fingers trembling as I flipped through the pages filled with her neat script. It didn't take long for me to understand that this was no ordinary diary. My heart sank as I read about an ancient pact made with a malevolent spirit, a spirit tied to the very doll that now sat on my desk. The words flowed out like a chilling tale of warning, each sentence revealing the horrors she had faced, the battles she fought to protect our family from its wrath. "Sarah, you need to read this," I told Jake later, my voice a whisper as I recounted my discoveries. He sat across from me, concern etched across his face. It's all connected. The doll, the whispers, my grandmother's past. It's like she was trying to warn me. Jake leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean? What does it say?" "They made a deal," I explained, my heart racing as I recalled the words from the diary. She thought she could control it, but it's clear that something went terribly wrong. The spirit is still out there, and it wants something or someone. "Sarah, this is serious. Are you sure you want to dig deeper? What if it's dangerous?" His voice was laced with trepidation, and I could see the worry in his eyes. "I have to know, Jake. I can't just ignore this. It's part of my family's history." I insisted, my determination hardening. "If I don't confront it, who knows what will happen? It could come after me, or worse, my family." That night, as I lay trembling in my bed, the whispers intensified. It felt as though they were closing in on me, wrapping around me like a shroud. Suddenly, I was enveloped in a vision, a scene playing out before me as if I were watching a movie. I saw my grandmother, young and terrified, standing in a dimly lit room, the same bone doll in her hands. "Please, I didn't mean to," she pleaded, her voice trembling, but the words fell on deaf ears. The atmosphere was thick with despair, and I could feel the weight of her fear pressing against me. "Why did you betray me?" A voice boomed, dark and furious, echoing through the room. My heart raced as I recognized the voice as the same one that had whispered my name. It was the spirit, and it was furious. "I thought I could control you. I thought I could save my family," she cried out desperately, tears streaming down her cheeks. I wanted to reach out to her, to comfort her, but I was frozen, an invisible wall holding me back. The vision shifted, revealing flashes of pain, betrayal, and despair. My grandmother's attempts to break the curse, her failures, the sacrifices made, each moment heavier than the ultimo. As I watched, horror washed over me. The spirit wasn't just a malevolent force. It was a vengeful entity, born from betrayal and suffering, seeking to claim another soul to feed its insatiable hunger for revenge. I could feel the weight of my family's past pressing down on me, the guilt, the pain, all of it flooding through me. The vision faded, and I gasped, jolting awake, drenched in sweat. My heart pounded furiously as I turned to look at the doll, now sitting ominously closer to my bed. The once still figure now seemed animated, almost alive, as if it had been watching me all along. A sense of dread settled in my stomach as I realized that the spirit was not just an external threat. It had woven itself into the very fabric of my family's lineage, and now it was reaching out to me. I was caught in a web of secrets, a legacy of betrayal that I could no longer ignore. "Sarah, are you okay?" Jake's voice broke through my thoughts, and I turned to find him standing in my doorway, concern etched across his face. "I had a vision," I said breathlessly, my voice shaking. "It was my grandmother. She tried to confront the spirit, but she failed. It wants me now, Jake. It's looking for a new victim." He stepped into my room, urgency in his tone. "We need to do something. We can't let it take you. You have to fight back." "I don't know how," I whispered, the weight of the truth crashing down on me. "But I can't let this continue. I need to find a way to break the cycle." As I looked into Jake's eyes, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the fear. Together, we would uncover the truth buried in my family's past, confront the spirit that haunted us, and reclaim our lives from its grasp. But deep down, I knew that the battle ahead would test us in ways we could never have imagined, and the whispers would only grow louder as we ventured into the darkness. The attic was a realm of shadows and dust, a forgotten part of my grandmother's house that had been sealed away for years. After the funeral, the weight of loss settled heavily on my chest, and I found myself drawn to that dim space, yearning for a connection to the past. As I pushed open the creaky door, a rush of stale air hit my face, carrying the scent of old wood and memories long buried. I flicked on the light, but the bulb flickered weakly, casting eerie shapes across the cluttered floor. Boxes stacked haphazardly reached towards the low ceiling, each one a treasure chest of my family's history. I stepped inside, the floorboards creaking under my weight, and began to sift through the contents. Old photographs, yellowed with age, stared back at me, some faces familiar, others ghostly strangers. I felt a pang of nostalgia, but there was something else lurking in the corners of this room, something unsettling. It was then that I spotted her, a porcelain doll perched on a high shelf, her glassy eyes glinting in the dim light. She was dressed in a faded blue gown, her golden curls framing a face that seemed unervingly alive. I felt a chill run down my spine as I approached. "What are you doing up here?" I whispered, half expecting an answer. The doll remained silent, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was watching me, her gaze following my every move. Tentatively, I reached out and touched her smooth cheek. The moment my fingers made contact, a cold shiver raced through me. It was like touching ice, and I quickly pulled my hand back, heart racing. "Just a doll," I reassured myself, but the words felt meaningless. I couldn't shake the sense that this doll was more than just a relic of my grandmother's past. Compelled by a mixture of fear and curiosity, I scooped up the doll and carried her to my room. As I set her down on my bedside table, I couldn't help but feel a strange connection. It was as if she belonged to me, as if she had been waiting for my return. The shadows in my room deepened as night fell, and I tried to shake off the unsettling feeling that I was being watched. As I lay in bed, sleep eluded me. The house was enveloped in silence, except for the occasional creak of the old structure settling. Then I heard it, a faint whisper, like the rustling of leaves. I sat up, heart pounding. "Hello," I called out, but the only response was the sound of my own voice echoing in the stillness. The whispers grew louder, more distinct. "Sarah." It was a voice, soft and seductive, yet laced with a chill that sent shivers down my spine. "Sarah, come closer." My name danced on the air, beckoning me. I felt a pull, an urge to lean in closer to the source of the sound. It felt like a call from deep within the shadows. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the voice to go away, but it only intensified, a chorus of murmurs swirling around me. Secrets, family, betrayal. The words slithered into my mind, wrapping around my thoughts like a vice. My heart raced as I realized the whispers were coming from the doll, from the very thing I had brought into my sanctuary. In a fit of determination, I jumped out of bed and rushed to the attic, the doll clutched tightly in my arms. I needed to understand, to uncover the truth behind her haunting presence. My grandmother's belongings were scattered throughout the attic, but I had to find something, anything, that could explain the whispers and the chilling aura surrounding the doll. I began to rummage through boxes, tossing aside dust-covered trinkets and faded letters. My fingers brushed against something hard and cool, a leather-bound diary, its cover cracked with age. I pulled it out, the spine creaking as I opened it. The pages were filled with my grandmother's neat handwriting, detailing her life, her dreams, and ultimately, her fears. As I flipped through the pages, one entry caught my eye. It spoke of a pact, a dark agreement made in desperation. My breath hitched as I read about a spirit that had been summoned, a spirit that demanded a price. My grandmother had written of the doll, how it had been a vessel for the spirit's anger and sorrow. "I must break the curse," she had scrawled, "before it claims another life." I felt the weight of her words settle over me, the reality of the situation crashing down like a tidal wave. I was caught in a web woven by my own bloodline, tied to the very spirit my grandmother had feared. "Jake," I whispered to myself, remembering my childhood friend who had always been there for me. Maybe he could help me understand this, help me confront the terror lurking within the doll. The next day, I found Jake at the park, tossing a frisbee with some friends. He looked up as I approached, his smile fading when he saw a storm brewing in my eyes. "Hey, Sarah, what's wrong?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "I need your help," I blurted out, urgency in my voice. I quickly explained everything, the doll, the whispers, the diary. Jake listened intently, his brow furrowing deeper with each revelation. "Are you sure about this? It sounds dangerous," he replied, crossing his arms as he studied my face. I could see the worry in his eyes, but I was past the point of turning back. I needed answers, and I needed him by my side. "I can't do this alone," I insisted. "My family is involved in something dark, and I have to face it. Please, Jake," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Okay, I'm in. Just promise me you'll be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with here." That night, we met at my house, the attic looming above us like a dark sentinel. Armed with the diary and a flashlight, we climbed the creaky stairs together. The air was thick with anticipation, and as we entered the attic, I felt the weight of the atmosphere shift. Jake and I sat cross-legged on the floor, the diary open between us. "Let's see what we can find," he said, his voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. We began to decipher the passages, piecing together the fragments of my family's past. "Look at this," Jake said, pointing to a section filled with intricate symbols and warnings. "It mentions rituals, ways to confront the spirit and break the curse." My heart raced as I read the words. "We have to do this, Jake. We need to face it head-on." I could feel the urgency in my veins, the whispers still echoing in my mind. The idea of confronting the spirit felt both terrifying and empowering. "But there's a warning here," Jake continued, his finger tracing the delicate script. "It says we need to reveal the family secrets to the spirit. That's the only way to weaken it." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. What if they're too dark? What if we open a door we can't close? Jake looked at me, his eyes filled with determination. "We owe it to your family to try, Sarah. We have to know the truth." I nodded, the resolve hardening within me. I could feel the whispers intensifying, urging me forward. I was ready to unearth the secrets my family had buried for too long, ready to confront the darkness that had haunted us. Together, we would face the truth no matter the cost. I stood in the dimly lit living room, the air heavy with the weight of loss after my grandmother's funeral. The world outside was muted, a fog settling over everything, mirroring the confusion and grief swirling inside me. I felt an inexplicable pull towards the attic, a place I hadn't ventured into since I was a child. Curiosity gnawed at me, urging me to uncover the remnants of my grandmother's life, perhaps to find solace in memories long forgotten. With a deep breath, I ascended the creaky staircase, each step echoing in the silence. The attic door groaned as I pushed it open, revealing a world shrouded in dust and shadows. Boxes were haphazardly piled, and the faint light filtering through the small window danced upon the surfaces, creating an almost ethereal glow. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and memories, and I felt an unsettling chill crawl up my spine. As I began to sift through the boxes, pulling out trinkets and faded photographs, a glimmer caught my eye from a shelf in the corner. There, perched on a dusty wooden shelf, sat a doll, a porcelain figure with lifelike eyes that seemed to follow me as I moved. My heart raced as I approached it. It was beautiful yet eerie, dressed in a tattered lace gown that spoke of a time long gone. A shiver ran through me as I reached out to touch its cool surface. The moment my fingers brushed against the doll's porcelain skin, a wave of cold swept over me, sending a jolt of fear coursing through my veins. I quickly pulled my hand back, but the doll's gaze held me captive. Intrigued yet unnerved, I decided to take it with me, believing it might hold a piece of my grandmother's past that I could connect with. I wrapped it carefully in an old scarf and carried it down to my room. That night, as I lay in bed, the shadows seemed to deepen, and an unsettling sensation washed over me. Felt as though the doll was watching, no, waiting. The air grew heavy, and I found myself unable to shake off the feeling that I was not alone. The house creaked and settled around me, but the most disturbing part was the soft whispers that began to seep into the silence. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but then I heard it again. My name called in a faint, melodic tone. Sarah? I sat up abruptly, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was still, but the whispers grew louder, wrapping around me like a cold embrace. I felt a compulsion to listen, to understand the secrets they carried. As the nights passed, the whispers morphed into something more coherent, revealing fragments of stories that spoke of my family. Secrets buried deep within the fabric of our lineage. Determined to unravel the mystery, I began searching for answers. One afternoon, while rummaging through the attic again, I stumbled upon an old leather-bound diary tucked away in a dusty box labeled Memories. The cover was cracked and worn, but as I opened it, the pages revealed my grandmother's neat handwriting, filled with thoughts and reflections. My heart raced when I noticed the entries about the doll, the very same one that now sat on my dresser. With each turning page, I discovered chilling details about a pact she had made with a malevolent spirit. The words poured out like a dam breaking, each sentence thicker with dread than the anterior one. She had written about the haunting presence that had plagued our family for generations, a darkness that had taken root in the very essence of our lineage. My breath caught in my throat as I realized the doll was far more than an object. It was a vessel for something sinister. Why didn't she tell me? I muttered to myself, gripping the diary tightly as the truth settled like a stone in my stomach. I felt a growing sense of urgency. I had to know more about this spirit and the pact my grandmother had made. I needed to confront the shadows that loomed over my family. Later that day, I called Jake, my childhood friend who had always been by my side through thick and thin. "Jake, I need your help," I said, my voice trembling with unease. "I found something about my grandmother and that doll. Are you okay?" he replied, concern lacing his words. "What do you mean?" "I think it's connected to a spirit, something dark. I found her diary, and it talks about a pact she made. We have to figure this out." "Okay," he said, his voice steadying. "I'm coming over." When Jake arrived, I could see the worry etched on his face as I handed him the diary. "Read this," I urged, my heart racing. "It's all in there." As he flipped through the pages, His expression shifted from confusion to alarm. Sarah, this is serious. You can't just ignore this. We need to do something. I know, I replied, biting my lip. But what? The diary mentions facing the spirit and revealing the family's secrets. I think that's the only way to break this, whatever it is. Jake looked at me, his brow furrowed. Are you sure you want to go down this path? What if it makes things worse? I have to know the truth, I insisted, determination rising within me. If there's a chance to free my family from this curse, I can't just sit back and do nothing. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right, I'll help you, but we need to be careful. This is beyond anything we've dealt with before. As we began to decipher the diary's cryptic passages, I felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. Each ritual described seemed to resonate with the whispers that haunted my nights, urging me closer to the truth. Jake and I spent hours unraveling the mysteries hidden within those pages, piecing together the puzzle of my family's past. Look at this, Jake said, pointing to a passage that detailed a ritual meant to confront the spirit. It says we need to gather certain items: a lock of hair, a piece of clothing from someone who suffered under the spirit's influence, and some herbs for protection. I nodded, my mind racing. We can gather those, but we need to be prepared for whatever comes next. As we planned, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The doll, now sitting ominously on my dresser, seemed to draw closer with every passing day. I could feel its gaze boring into me, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if urging me to hurry. The weight of my family's secrets pressed heavily on my shoulders, and I felt a mix of fear and determination. The next evening, I confronted my mother, my heart pounding. Mom, I need to talk to you about Grandma and the doll, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her expression shifted immediately, eyes widening with alarm. Sarah, I don't want to discuss this. Just leave it alone. Why? There are things in her diary that I need to understand. There are secrets that could explain everything. Some things are better left buried, she replied sharply, her voice trembling slightly. Mom, please, pleaded. I need to know. The whispers, they're getting stronger. Something is wrong. She looked away, a shadow crossing her face. You don't understand the pain this could bring back. There are wounds that never heal, and I can't let you reopen them. Wounds, I pressed, desperation creeping into my tone. What happened? What are you so afraid of? She sighed heavily, her hands trembling. Your grandmother made a choice, Sarah. A choice that brought darkness upon our family. I thought we could move on, leave it in the past, but you're digging it up again. Mom, I can't just ignore it. I have to confront this. It's the only way to protect ourselves. Protect ourselves? She echoed, her voice rising. You're playing with forces you don't understand. You could awaken something terrible. I can't just pretend it doesn't exist. I shouted back, frustration boiling over. I'm tired of living in fear. I want to know the truth. With tears brimming in her eyes, my mother turned away. Please don't go down this path. I beg you. Feeling the weight of her resistance, I realized I was truly alone in this battle. Determined to find the answers, I decided to move forward with Jake, ready to confront the truth head-on. I could no longer allow fear to dictate my life. The whispers were growing louder, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant standing on the precipice of a dark family legacy. The air in my room felt thick with anticipation as Jake and I gathered the items we needed for the ritual. I had spent the entire day poring over my grandmother's diary, each page revealing more about the dark legacy that had clung to our family like a shadow. The weight of the knowledge I had unearthed pressed down on me, but I knew I had to confront whatever malevolent force was tied to that cursed doll. Are you sure we should be doing this? Jake asked, his voice low and edged with concern. He stood at my desk, holding a small candle, its wax still warm from the sunlight that had poured in earlier. I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen. I met his gaze, my resolve hardening. I have to do this, Jake. I can't live with the fear that the spirit is still out there, tormenting my family. My grandmother tried to break the curse, and she failed. I won't let that happen to me, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I get that, but what if we're just making things worse? What if we unleash something we can't control? I could feel a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. We won't know unless we try. And besides, I'll have you with me, right? I flashed him a weak smile, hoping to lighten the mood. Yeah, of course, he replied, but his eyes were still filled with doubt. Just promise me we'll be careful. I nodded, grateful for his support. We set about gathering the remaining items from the diary. Salt to create a protective circle, herbs that were meant to cleanse the space, and the candle to light our way through the darkness. Each object felt charged with purpose as we arranged them on the floor of my bedroom. As we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The doll, which I had placed on my bedside table, seemed to loom over us, its glassy eyes reflecting the dim light of the room. I shivered involuntarily, pushing the thought away. Let's just get this over with, I murmured. Jake lit the candle, and its flame flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. We moved to the center of my room, where I had drawn a large circle in the salt. The air felt charged as we stepped inside, a palpable energy surrounding us. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. Okay, let's start, I said, my voice shaking slightly. We need to focus on the intention of breaking the curse and confronting the spirit. Jake nodded, his expression serious. Right? So what do we say? I opened the diary to the page where my grandmother had written the incantation. We read this together. It's supposed to summon the spirit and give it a chance to reveal its intentions. All right, he said, shifting closer to me. On three. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. We recited the words in unison, our voices mingling in the dim light. As we spoke, I could feel the temperature in the room drop, a chill creeping up my spine. The candle flickered violently, and I glanced nervously at Jake. Did you feel that? Yeah, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. I think... Before he could finish, the doll on my bedside table jolted, as if pulled by an unseen force. It fell to the floor with a soft thud, and a gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candle. Darkness enveloped us, and the atmosphere felt thick and oppressive. Sarah, Jake shouted, panic rising in his voice. What do we do? Stay in the circle. I yelled back, my heart racing. We can't break the circle. It's our only protection. The shadows around us began to swirl, whispering indistinctly, their voices echoing in my mind. The air was electric, charged with a malevolence that sent chills down my spine. I could almost make out words, phrases that danced just beyond my understanding. Sarah, Sarah. The voices echoed, and I felt a cold breath against my neck, sending me reeling. You have awakened me. You cannot escape. Did you hear that? Jake's voice trembled, his eyes wide with fear. Yes, it's... I began, but was cut off as the shadows coalesced into a figure, barely discernible in the darkness. A silhouette emerged, its form shifting and twisting like smoke. I strained to see, but the more I focused, the more disoriented I became. Reveal yourself, I shouted, finding my voice despite the fear clawing at my insides. Why are you haunting our family? The figure seemed to respond, its voice now clearer, a chilling whisper that sent shivers down my spine. You have trespassed into my domain. A debt must be paid. Your bloodline is tainted with betrayal. What betrayal? I cried out, my heart pounding. What do you want from us? Your grandmother, she made a pact long ago. The voice hissed, echoing through the room. But she betrayed me. I was promised a vessel, and she denied me. I glanced at Jake, who looked as white as a sheet. What does it mean? He whispered, fear evident in his tone. I don't know, I replied, desperation creeping into my voice. But we need to know how to break this curse. The figure shifted closer, and I could feel its cold presence enveloping me. Face the truth, child. Only then will you find peace. A blinding flash illuminated the room, and I was thrust into a vision, a memory that wasn't mine. I found myself standing in a dimly lit room, the air thick with tension. A woman who resembled my grandmother faced a dark figure, fear etched across her face. "No, I won't do it," she cried, her voice trembling. "You promised. Promises are made to be broken," the dark figure replied, its voice a low growl. "You will pay the price for your betrayal." I gasped as the vision faded, and I was back in my room, the shadows swirling around me. What was that? I panted, trying to catch my breath. "Sarah, what did you see?" Jake pressed, his eyes wide with concern. "It was my grandmother," I stammered, trying to piece together what I had witnessed. She made a pact with the spirit, but she didn't follow through. It's angry because she betrayed it." Jake ran a hand through his hair, his expression conflicted. "So the doll, it's a vessel for the spirit? It's been waiting for someone to fulfill the pact." I nodded slowly, the weight of realization settling heavily on my shoulders. "It wants to continue the cycle, to claim another member of our family." The shadows began to pulse with energy, and I could feel the spirit's anger radiating through the room. "You cannot escape your lineage," it howled, a cacophony of voices joining in a chorus of rage. "Face your fate." "Sarah, we need to end this now," Jake urged, stepping closer to me. "What do we do?" I thought frantically, my mind racing. The diary, it mentioned confronting the spirit directly. We have to stand our ground and tell it we won't be a part of its game. "Are you sure?" Jake asked, concern etched across his face. "What if it makes things worse?" "It can't be worse than what's happening now," I shouted, feeling the adrenaline surge through me. "We have to take back control." We stood together, our hands clasped tightly as we faced the swirling shadows. "We reject your power," I declared, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. "We will not be bound by your curse." The spirit shrieked, a sound that cut through the air like glass shattering. "You think you can defy me? Your family's blood is mine." "No!" Jake shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "We're stronger than your darkness." I felt a surge of energy course through me, and I drew strength from Jake's presence. "We will break this curse," I yelled, feeling the salt circle around us shimmer with power. "We will not be your vessels." The shadows recoiled, the dark figure trembling as if in pain. "You cannot fight what has already been written." In that moment, I felt a rush of clarity. "We can rewrite our fate," I shouted, the words spilling from my lips. "We will not be defined by your betrayal. We are more than your past." The wind howled, and the room shook as the spirit writhed in fury. Shadows twisted and contorted, the air thick with tension. I felt the energy building, the room vibrating with the intensity of our resolve. "Together," Jake cried, squeezing my hand tightly. "We can do this. Together," I echoed, my voice rising above the chaos. "We are not afraid." As our combined voices echoed through the room, the shadows began to dissipate, the dark figure flickering like a candle in a storm. The air felt electric, charged with the power of our declaration. But just as I thought we were making progress, the spirit unleashed a final, desperate scream, a howl of rage that reverberated through the room. The shadows surged, and I felt a pull, an insatiable hunger clawing at my very soul. "Sarah!" Jake shouted, his grip tightening as the darkness threatened. I stood in the dim light of my room, the only sound the faint creaking of the old house settling around me. The Benica, that cursed doll, sat ominously on my dresser, its glassy eyes glinting in the pale moonlight. I could feel the weight of its gaze, a pressure that seemed to push against my chest, making it hard to breathe. I had learned so much in the past few days, about my family, the pact, the spirit trapped within the doll. But now, the most crucial moment lay ahead. It was time to confront the malevolent force that had haunted my family for generations. "Are you ready, Sarah?" Jake's voice broke through my dark thoughts. He stood in the doorway, his expression a mix of concern and determination. I could see the subtle tremor in his hands, a sign that he was just as scared as I was. But this was no time for fear. This was a time for action. "I have to do this," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "It's the only way to break the cycle, to free us from this curse." I turned to face him, searching his eyes for reassurance. "You believe me, don't you?" "Of course I do," he said, stepping into the room, his presence a comforting anchor. "But I don't want you to get hurt. This thing is dangerous, Sarah." I nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, but if I don't confront it, who will? My grandmother failed. I can't let that happen to me too." I glanced back at the doll, my heart racing. The air around it felt thick, almost electric. "We have to end this." Jake took a deep breath, his expression softening. "All right, let's do this together. I'm right here with you." He took my hand, and I felt a surge of strength. Together, we could face whatever lay ahead. We had gathered everything we needed: the journal, candles, and the herbs described in my grandmother's notes. I had spent countless hours poring over those pages, piecing together the rituals and the warnings. It felt surreal to be standing here now, ready to enact what was written in those faded lines. With a determined nod, we set up the circle of candles on the floor, the flickering flames casting long shadows on the walls. I could feel the energy in the room shift, an almost palpable tension crackling in the air. As we finished arranging the candles, I glanced at Jake, who was kneeling beside me. "Okay, what's next?" he asked, his voice low and steady. I opened the journal to the marked page, my hands trembling slightly as I read the words aloud. "To confront the spirit, one must speak the truth of the lineage and face the darkness that haunts it." I paused, glancing at the doll again. "It's time to reveal the secrets." Jake nodded, his eyes fixed on the doll. "Let's do it." With a deep breath, I began to recite the incantation from the journal. As the words left my lips, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. A cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing one of the candles in an instant. I could hear whispers, faint and indistinct, swirling around us like a tempest. My heart raced as I pressed on, determined to keep my focus. The doll shuddered, its eyes glinting with an otherworldly light as if awakening from a long slumber. "Sarah!" The whispers echoed, a chorus of voices that sent chills down my spine. "Stay strong," Jake whispered, his grip tightening around my hand. I continued the incantation, my voice steadying as I spoke the words my grandmother had written. "I call upon the spirits of my ancestors to reveal the truth and to break the chains that bind us." As I spoke, I felt a surge of energy, almost as if the room itself was responding to my words. Suddenly, the doll began to move, inching closer to us on its own, its porcelain face twisting into a grotesque smile. "You think you can defeat me?" it hissed, the voice a chilling blend of my grandmother's and something far more sinister. "You are all the same, filled with lies and betrayal." I swallowed hard, trying to suppress the fear creeping into my heart. "No, you're wrong. I'm here to face the truth, to confront the darkness you've brought upon my family," I shouted, surprising even myself with my own conviction. The doll laughed, a sound that echoed mockingly through the room. "Face the truth? You have no idea what you're dealing with, child. Your family has fed me for generations with their guilt and their fears. You think you can just walk in here and break the cycle?" "Yes," I declared, my voice rising. "I will break this cycle. I will not let you control me or my family any longer." I could feel the energy in the room swell, the shadows around us pulsing in time with my heartbeat. Jake stepped forward, his voice firm. "We know the truth about your betrayal, about the pain you've caused. We're not afraid of you." He pointed at the doll, his eyes blazing with determination. "We are here to end this." With a flick of its wrist, the doll sent a wave of dark energy towards us, a force that knocked us both backward. I stumbled, hitting the floor as the candles flickered wildly, casting frantic shadows on the walls. The room felt suffocating, as if the air itself was thick with dread. "Feel that? That is the weight of your family's sins." the doll screeched, its voice echoing off the walls. "You cannot escape it, Sarah. You are just like them." I clenched my fists, fighting against the despair trying to pull me under. "No, I am not my family's mistakes. I am stronger than that." I forced myself to stand, my heart pounding in my chest. I choose to confront the truth, to face it head-on. Jake was at my side again, his presence a steadying force. "We can do this together," he encouraged, his eyes locked onto mine. As the doll writhed and twisted, the shadows around us deepened, threatening to swallow us whole. I could feel the weight of its anger, its desperation to cling to the power it had held for so long. But I knew I had to push through. "Listen to me," I shouted, my voice cutting through the darkness. "I know about the betrayal. I know about the pain, but I refuse to let it define me." I could feel the energy building around us again, the candles flickering in response to my words. "I am here to free my family from your grasp." The doll paused, its expression shifting from anger to a twisted curiosity. "You think you can break the bond? You think you can just let go of the past?" "Yes," I shouted, my voice ringing with conviction. "I am breaking this bond today. No more guilt, no more fear." I could feel the energy surging around me, a protective barrier forming as I stood my ground. Jake raised his hands, channeling his own energy into the ritual. "We are stronger together. We will face you," he shouted, his voice unwavering. The doll's laughter echoed again, but this time, it sounded less confident. "You're playing a dangerous game, child. You don't truly understand the depths of my power." But I didn't care. I had come this far, and I wasn't about to turn back now. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I am confronting my family's past, and I will not let you win." With each word, I felt the weight of my ancestors behind me, their strength pushing me forward. The room shook, the shadows swirling as the energy intensified. I could feel the doll's power fighting against mine, but I pressed on, refusing to back down. "I will break this cycle. I will free us all." Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the candles, illuminating the room and pushing back the darkness. I felt a rush of warmth enveloping me, a sense of purpose filling my heart. The whispers grew louder, but this time they were not filled with malice. They were voices of my ancestors, standing with me. "Face the darkness, Sarah. You are not alone," they urged, their voices intertwining with my own. The doll shrieked, the sound piercing and filled with rage. "You think you can defeat me with words? I will show you true suffering." I stood tall, my heart racing, but I could feel the strength of my ancestors surrounding me. "No more. I will no longer be a prisoner of your lies," I shouted, my voice echoing with power. "I will break the chains, and I will reclaim my family's honor." With a final surge of energy, I raised my hands, channeling everything I had into the ritual. The light grew brighter, illuminating the room as the shadows receded. The doll twisted and writhed, its expression morphing into one of desperation. "Stop! You cannot do this!" it screamed, but I was beyond the fear now. I had the truth on my side, and I would not be silenced. "Your reign of terror ends today," I declared, my voice ringing clear and strong. The light enveloped the doll, and I could feel the energy swirling around us, pushing against its very essence. In that moment, I knew I had to stay strong, to keep pushing against the darkness. I had to face the spirit and the truth of my family, no matter the cost. And as I surged forward, the air in my room was thick with tension as I faced the doll, its glassy eyes glinting in the dim light. I had learned so much about its dark history, about the family secrets that had been buried for generations, but nothing could prepare me for the confrontation that lay ahead. I could feel the weight of my ancestors' sins pressing down on me, an invisible shroud of guilt and regret. "Sarah," the doll's voice whispered, slithering through the air like a serpent. "You think you can escape your fate? You are just like them, tainted by their lies." I shivered, the words cutting through me like ice. I took a deep breath, feeling the surge of anger rise within me. "No, I'm not like them," I won't let you control me. The doll's smile widened, a grotesque mockery of joy. Control? I merely reflect the truth that you refuse to see. Your family has been cursed by betrayal, and now you must pay the price. I could hear the echoes of my grandmother's struggles, the weight of her failures hanging in the air like a storm cloud. I had spent days combing through her diary, piecing together the fragments of a dark legacy that had haunted our family. The revelation that my own bloodline had betrayed the spirit bound to that doll was a bitter pill to swallow. Why did you do it? I demanded, my voice cracking slightly. Why did you betray her? Ah, the question of betrayal, the doll cooed, its voice dripping with condescension. Your grandmother thought she could outsmart me, thought she could break the cycle. But she was weak, just like you. With each word, I could feel the room shifting, shadows dancing on the walls, whispering secrets only I could hear. The air crackled with energy, a palpable tension that made my skin prickle. I remembered the visions, the moments where I had seen glimpses of my ancestors' failures, their desperation. You don't know anything about me. I shot back, my heart pounding. I'm not afraid of you. Fear is a natural response to the unknown, child, the doll replied, its tone laced with a sinister gentleness. But you are not prepared for the truth. You think you can confront me without understanding the depth of your lineage? The darkness that flows through your veins. I clenched my fists, feeling the heat of determination rising within me. I will face the truth. I will confront the past. Then let us reveal it together, the doll whispered, and in that moment, I felt a surge of coldness envelop me. I was suddenly pulled into a whirlwind of memories that were not my own, visions flickering before my eyes like a broken film reel. I saw my grandmother, young and terrified, clutching the doll tightly as if it were her only lifeline. I heard her voice, trembling, pleading with the spirit. Please, I didn't mean to betray you. I thought I could save us. Save you? You only dug your own grave. The spirit hissed through the doll, its voice echoing in my mind. The scene shifted, and I watched as my grandmother struggled against the forces that sought to consume her, her heart torn between love and fear. Sarah, I heard her call, her voice breaking through the chaos. You have to understand. The spirit feeds on our guilt, our secrets. It's not just about the past. It's about what we carry with us. I felt my heart race, the weight of her pain crashing over me like a tidal wave. I'm sorry. I wanted to scream, but the words were lost in the cacophony of memories swirling around me. Then, the vision shifted again, and I saw the betrayal that had sealed her fate. A moment of weakness, a choice made in desperation. I gasped as I realized it was my own mother, her face etched with fear and regret, who had turned away from the truth, sealing the fate of our family. You think you can escape this cycle, Sarah? The doll taunted, its voice intertwining with the memories. You are bound by the same chains of guilt and betrayal. You cannot break free. No! I screamed, forcing the words past the rising tide of despair. I am not them. I refuse to be a prisoner of my family's past. The shadows in the room seemed to ripple with my words, the energies shifting around me. I could feel the spirit's rage, its hunger to consume me, yet I stood my ground. I had learned of the sacrifices and burdens my ancestors had carried, but I would not succumb to the same fate. Face it, child, the doll hissed, the shadows swirling around like a tempest. You must acknowledge the truth, the betrayal that runs through your veins. I closed my eyes, focusing on the warmth of the memories I held dear, the laughter of my childhood, the love of my family, the strength I had found within myself. You are wrong, I whispered, my voice steady. I carry love and resilience. I will not be defined by betrayal. Your love is weak. It cannot save you from the inevitable. The doll sneered, but I could feel the tremor in its voice, the flicker of uncertainty. I opened my eyes, and with a newfound clarity, I shouted, "Let me show you what true strength is. I will confront the truth, and I will break this curse." The shadows recoiled, and for a moment, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. The doll, still perched on the edge of my bed, seemed to waver, its form flickering as if caught in the balance between two worlds. "You dare challenge me?" it shrieked, the voice twisting into something monstrous. "You are nothing but a child, lost in a web of lies." "Maybe," I admitted, my heart racing, "but I am also the one who chooses to break free. I will not let my family's past dictate my future." As I spoke, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, feeding on the truth I had unearthed. I was no longer just Sarah, the scared girl who had stumbled upon a cursed doll. I was the voice of my ancestors, a vessel for their pain and their hope. "You think you can change the past?" The doll spat, its eyes narrowing. "You are a fool." "Maybe I am," I retorted, "but I refuse to live in fear of what has come before me. I choose to face the truth." In that moment, the air crackled with energy, and I saw the shadows around me begin to swirl violently, the spirit's anger manifesting in the room. My heart raced, but I held firm, my gaze locked onto the doll. "Let the truth be known," I shouted, feeling the echoes of my ancestors rallying behind me. "Let the betrayal be revealed, and let the guilt be lifted." The room erupted in a cacophony of sound, the voices of my ancestors swirling around me, their pain and suffering resonating in the air. I felt their energy intertwining with mine, a web of strength and courage that began to push against the darkness. "You cannot defeat me," the doll screeched, its voice rising in pitch, but I pressed on, my voice rising above the chaos. "I am not afraid of you. I am the culmination of my family's strength, and I will break this cycle." The shadows writhed and twisted, and for a brief moment, I felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to rewrite our story, to confront the darkness that had lingered for far too long. As the energies collided, I could feel the spirit's grip on me loosening, the weight of its power beginning to fade. There was a shift in the air, a moment where I could see the possibility of redemption, of breaking free from the chains of the past. "Enough!" I cried, my voice echoing with the resonance of my ancestors. "I will not bear this burden any longer." In that instant, I could feel the darkness retreating, the weight of guilt and betrayal beginning to lift. The spirit's anger morphed into something else: fear, uncertainty, as if it had never encountered someone willing to confront the truth so fiercely. "You are strong, child," the doll murmured, its voice now laced with a hint of desperation. "But the truth you seek comes at a price." "I'm willing to pay it," I replied, my resolve unwavering. "I will not let fear dictate my choices. I will face the truth, and I will set us all free." And as I stood there, heart racing and courage swelling within me, I knew that this was just the beginning. The echoes of my ancestors surrounded me, their voices rising in a chorus of support, and I felt the spirit's hold begin to fade, a bittersweet end to a long-fought battle. In that moment, I realized that the truth was not something to be feared but embraced. I was ready to confront whatever came next, to break the cycle of pain and betrayal that had haunted my family for generations. I would face the consequences, whatever they may be, but I would do so with the strength of my lineage behind me. As the room settled, the shadows receded, and I took a deep breath, the weight of the past finally beginning to lift. I stood in the dim light of my room, the shadows flickering ominously as the remnants of the ritual lay scattered around me. The air felt thick, heavy with an impending sense of doom, and I could feel the weight of the bone doll's gaze upon me. It was as if the very essence of the spirit trapped within it was trying to penetrate my thoughts, whispering dark secrets that twisted my stomach in knots. I had uncovered so much about my family's past, but now I was faced with a choice that could change everything. "Sarah, are you sure about this?" Jake's voice broke through the silence, laced with concern. He was standing by the door, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, a mixture of fear and determination etched on his face. "We can still walk away. We don't have to do this." I turned to face him, the flickering candlelight casting shadows across my skin. "Jake, I have to do this. My family, they've been haunted by this spirit for generations. If I don't confront it, who will?" If I don't try to end this cycle of pain, it will just continue, and I can't let that happen. Maybe there's another way, he pleaded, stepping closer. We can find a different solution, something that doesn't involve you sacrificing yourself. His words tugged at my heart, but I was resolute. You don't understand. The spirit feeds on our fears, our regrets. It thrives on the guilt that my family has carried for so long. If I can confront it, if I can face the truth, maybe I can break the cycle. But it means I have to offer myself to it. Jake's expression shifted, worry morphing into desperation. You don't have to carry this burden alone. We can face this together. Please, don't do this. I took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of burning wax and the remnants of the ritual. You've been with me through this entire ordeal, Jake. You've helped me uncover the truth about my family. But this is something I have to do alone. It's my family's legacy to confront, not yours. He shook his head, the frustration evident in his voice. What if it doesn't work? What if you sacrifice yourself and it's all for nothing? What if? I interrupted, my voice rising. What if I don't do anything and it continues to haunt us? What if more people suffer because I was too afraid to act? I can't live with that. I won't let this spirit control my life anymore. Not anymore. The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I could see the internal battle raging in his eyes. He wanted to protect me, to save me from the darkness that threatened to engulf me. But I had made my choice and I had to see it through. I'm sorry, Jake, I whispered, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I need to confront the truth, and I need to do it now. He stepped forward, his hands reaching for mine. Just promise me you'll be careful. Whatever happens, I'll be right here. I won't let you go without a fight. I squeezed his hands, grateful for his unwavering support. I promise, but I can't let fear dictate my actions anymore. I have to face my family's mistakes, even if it means facing my own. The truth is the only way to set us free. With one last glance at Jake, I turned my back to him and approached the altar we had set up for the ritual. The bone doll sat in the center, its glassy eyes glinting in the candlelight. I could feel the energy in the room shift, a palpable presence swirling around me as I prepared to confront the spirit. Spirit? I called out, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. I know you are here. I know your pain. I know the truth about the betrayal that binds us. I'm here to face you. The air grew colder, and the shadows in the room deepened. I could hear the faint sound of whispers, echoing around me as if the very walls were alive with the voices of my ancestors. You think you can confront me, child? A voice hissed from the depths of the darkness. You carry the weight of your family's sins. You are no different from them. I am different, I shouted, my voice ringing with defiance. I'm here to break the cycle. I'm here to face the truth, to confront the pain that has haunted my family for too long. The doll's eyes seemed to darken, swirling with an otherworldly energy. You think you can escape your destiny? You think revealing the truth will set you free? Your family's guilt is a chain that binds you. I felt the anger rise within me. No, I refuse to be a prisoner of my family's past. I refuse to let you control me any longer. I am not my ancestors. I am my own person. The whispers swelled, growing louder, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. You cannot hide from the truth. You cannot escape your blood. You are the last in a line of betrayal, and your soul will pay the price. Let me show you the truth, I shouted, feeling the energy of the room shift. Let me unveil the secrets that have kept us trapped. As I spoke, I felt a surge of power within me, fueled by the knowledge I had gained from my grandmother's diary. I took a step closer to the doll, my heart racing. I am not afraid of you. I will reveal the betrayal that has brought you here, and I will confront the darkness that has plagued my family. The shadows coiled around me, and I could feel the spirit's anger rising. You are a fool, child. You think you can challenge me? You think you can break the chains of the past? I can and I will, I cried, my voice echoing with strength. I will not let you take another life. I will confront the truth, and I will free my family from your grasp. With each word, I felt the energy inside me grow stronger. I reached out, my hand hovering above the doll, ready to confront the spirit that had tormented my family for so long. I demand that you show yourself. I will not be your pawn any longer. The room erupted in chaos as the spirit unleashed its fury. Shadows lashed out at me, cold tendrils wrapping around my limbs, trying to pull me into the darkness. You will regret this, Sarah. You cannot fight what is already inside you. Get out! I screamed, breaking free from the shadows that threatened to engulf me. You have no power over me. I am the one who decides my fate. In that moment, I felt a surge of energy course through me, a bright light piercing through the darkness. The spirit shrieked, the shadows recoiling as I confronted the truth that had haunted my family for generations. You are nothing but a reflection of our fears and regrets. You feed on our guilt, but I will not allow you to claim another soul. The doll trembled, and I could feel the spirit's resistance weakening. You think you can banish me? You are merely a child, lost in the shadows of your ancestors. I am more than that, I shouted back, feeling emboldened by my determination. I am the one who will break this cycle. I am the one who will bring light to the darkness that has consumed us. With a final surge of will, I plunged my hand into the heart of the doll, feeling the cold energy of the spirit trying to pull me under. I confront you. I reveal your pain. I will not let my family suffer any longer. As I spoke the words, I felt a connection to my ancestors, a surge of their strength flowing through me. The shadows around me began to dissipate, the whispers turning into cries of anguish. No, you cannot do this. You cannot unveil the truth. But I would not be swayed. I will not be a victim of your torment any longer. I will confront the betrayal, and I will free my family from the chains that bind us. In that moment, I felt the energy explode around me, the light blinding and pure. The spirit screamed, a sound that echoed through the room, shaking the very foundations of my home. I could feel the weight of my family's past lifting, the chains that had bound them for so long breaking apart. I opened my eyes, gasping for breath as the shadows began to retreat. The doll lay still, its power diminished, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. But there was still a heaviness in the air, a lingering darkness that I could not shake. Sarah! Jake's voice broke through the haze, and I felt his presence at my side. Are you okay? I turned to him, my heart racing. I think I did it. I confronted the spirit. I revealed the truth. His eyes widened, a mix of relief and concern washing over his features. But at what cost? You were so close to being consumed by it. You can't do that again. We need to find another way. I shook my head, determined. No, Jake. I have to see this through. I can't let this spirit win. I have to confront it completely, even if it means I have to sacrifice myself to save my family. Don't say that, he urged, grabbing my shoulders. You don't have to be a martyr. We can find another solution. The air in the attic felt heavier than ever as I stood before the doll, my heart racing with a mixture of fear and determination. Shadows danced around me, flickering in the dim light of the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The moment I made the decision to confront this malevolent spirit that had haunted my family for generations, I felt a surge of energy course through me. I had finally unearthed the truth about the betrayal that bound my lineage to this cursed entity. The knowledge of my ancestors' sins was a weight I had carried, and now it was time to confront the darkness. Sarah, Jake's voice broke through my reverie, filled with urgency. Are you sure about this? We don't know what could happen. His brow was furrowed, his eyes darting nervously toward the doll, which seemed to loom larger and more ominous in the fading light. I have to do this, Jake, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. If I don't confront it now, then I'll never be free from this legacy. My family has suffered for too long. I have to break the cycle. I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me, but there was no turning back. This was my destiny, and I had to face it head on. He stepped closer, his expression softening. But what about us? What if something happens to you? The fear in his voice made my heart ache. We had been through so much together, and I could see the concern etched in his features. I reached out, gripping his hand. I appreciate your concern, but this isn't just about me anymore. It's about my family. It's about stopping the pain that has plagued us for generations. My voice trembled, but I held his gaze, willing him to understand. We can't let the spirit continue its reign of terror. This doll, it has to be confronted. Jake sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly as he looked at the doll, its porcelain face seeming to mock our fears. All right, but I'm not letting you do this alone, he said resolutely. We face this together. With a nod of gratitude, I turned back to the doll, which sat motionless, its glassy eyes glinting ominously in the low light. I took a deep breath, feeling the air fill my lungs, and began to recite the incantation we had found in my grandmother's diary. Each word felt heavy with history, reverberating through the attic like a forgotten memory clawing its way back to life. The moment I spoke the final syllable, the atmosphere changed. The air grew thick, and the shadows began to swirl around us. The doll shuddered, its head tilting slightly as if acknowledging our presence. A low, guttural growl emanated from it, sending chills racing down my spine. Sarah, what's happening? Jake shouted, his voice barely audible over the rising noise. The shadows converged, forming a whirlwind of dark energy that threatened to consume us both. I could feel the spirit's wrath, a palpable anger that surged through the room like a violent storm. I will not let you control me, I screamed, my voice ringing with defiance. You have tormented my family for far too long. The doll's expression shifted, a cruel smile spreading across its painted face. You think you can defy me, child? It hissed, its voice a chilling whisper that echoed in my mind. Your bloodline is tainted, and you will never escape your fate. No, I shouted, my heart pounding as I fought against the overwhelming force. I refuse to be a victim of your lies and manipulation. I know the truth now. Suddenly, a vision flooded my mind. I was pulled into the past, witnessing my grandmother's battle against the very spirit that now sought to claim me. I saw her standing in this very attic, fear etched across her face as she attempted to break the curse. But she had failed just as so many before her had. The spirit had taken root in her heart, feeding off her guilt and shame, and now it sought a new host, me. Your grandmother was weak, the doll taunted, its voice dripping with malice. She could never bear the weight of her sins, and neither can you. Tears filled my eyes as I fought against the memories, the pain of my family's history weighing heavily on my soul. I am stronger than you think, I declared, feeling a surge of energy as I clung to the truth I had unearthed. I will not let your darkness define me. As the spirit writhed in anger, the shadows around us twisted and churned, trying to smother the light I was beginning to harness. You think you can break free? It screeched, its voice rising to a deafening crescendo. You are nothing without your family's secrets. In that moment of chaos, I felt Jake's hand tightening around mine. You're not alone, Sarah, he shouted, his voice a beacon of hope amidst the turmoil. We'll face this together. His words resonated deep within me, igniting a fire of determination. I turned to him, feeling my resolve strengthen. You're right. We will face this together, I shouted back, my voice ringing with newfound strength. The doll's expression twisted in fury as I summoned all the courage I had. I raised my voice, channeling the love and strength of my family, the ancestors who had suffered in silence. I acknowledge our past. I acknowledge our pain, but I will no longer be burdened by it. You will not take me. The shadows recoiled, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the grip of the spirit weaken. No, you cannot escape me, it howled, the sound reverberating through the attic like thunder. With a fierce determination, I continued, I release you from the chains of our family's guilt. You will not have power over me any longer. In that moment, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, as if the very essence of my ancestors was flowing into my veins. The shadows began to dissipate, and a blinding light enveloped the room. The doll shrieked in rage, its porcelain face cracking as the power of my proclamation shattered the darkness that had held it captive for so long. But then, in an instant, the atmosphere shifted again. I felt a pull, a force dragging me away from the light, back toward the doll. "Sarah!" Jake shouted, panic lacing his voice. "Don't let it take you." I fought against the force, but it was relentless. "Jake, help me!" I cried, my voice filled with desperation. The doll's eyes flared with an unholy light, and I felt myself being drawn closer, losing grip on reality. In a moment of pure instinct, Jake lunged forward, grasping my arm with a fierce grip. "I won't let you go!" he yelled, his own fear igniting a spark of courage within me. "We're in this together, remember?" But the doll was stronger than I anticipated. With a flick of its wrist, it unleashed a wave of energy that sent Jake sprawling to the ground. "Foolish boy, you think you can save her?" The doll sneered, its voice echoing with a sinister delight. "She belongs to me now." "No!" I screamed, feeling the darkness creeping closer, threatening to consume me. I could see the fear in Jake's eyes as he struggled to rise, desperation etched in every line of his face. "I won't let it take me, Jake. I refuse to let it win." In that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. The spirit thrived on fear and regret, and I was no longer willing to feed it. "I choose love over fear," I declared, my voice slicing through the darkness like a blade. "I choose to break the cycle." As I spoke, I felt the energy within me ignite, a brilliant light radiating from my core. The shadows recoiled, and I felt the grip of the doll loosening. "You cannot defeat me," it shrieked, but its voice trembled with uncertainty. "Watch me," I shouted, feeling the power of my ancestors swell around me. "I will break this curse. I will free us all." With one final burst of energy, I pulled the truth from my heart and unleashed it upon the spirit. The light exploded around me, blinding and brilliant, and I felt the oppressive darkness begin to shatter. But as I reached the pinnacle of my power, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I looked down to see the doll's hand piercing through me, a cruel smile spreading across its porcelain face. "You think you can escape? You are mine," it hissed, pulling me closer to the void. "Jake!" I cried, my voice a mere whisper as the darkness closed in around me. "I'm so sorry." He scrambled to his feet, his eyes wide with horror. "No, Sarah, don't!" he screamed, desperation lacing his words as he lunged forward, reaching for me. In that moment, I felt the weight of my decision. I had chosen to confront the darkness, to sacrifice myself in the hope of freeing my family from its grip. "Jake, I love you," I managed to shout, tears streaming down my face. "Remember me." The world around me began to fade, the light dimming as I felt myself being pulled into the abyss. "You will never escape," the doll shrieked, its laughter echoing in the darkness. But I held on to the memories of love, the laughter of my family, the warmth of Jake's.